or do you support the findings of the Gonski report?
I most certainly do. I was the Education Minister that asked David Gonski to do this work. I didn't quite foresee then that his surname, Gonski, would end up becoming part of our language, that it would be, you know, a noun. It's actually a verb now. People talk about to Gonski. You know, David's lent his name to the nation. I asked him to lend his efforts to make sure that we could find a way of better funding schools for the long term. And they gave us a report, and we're working on that report. We've struck new funding arrangements with New South Wales. I want to see us put $14.5 billion extra into schools around the country, so that we're lifting schools up to a school resource standard, which is the amount of money that each school needs to teach the kids in that school and get them a great education. And you might think, gee, that sounds pretty simple, because you just work out a per student figure and, you know, tip that in, and then every school would have the resources they need. It's more complicated than that, because we know it takes more resources for a child who comes from a poorer home to get a great education, for an Indigenous child to get a great education, for a child from a non-English speaking background to get a great education, for a child with a disability to get a great education. And then there are larger fixed costs for small and remote schools. And so we've had to design a model that appropriately weighs all of that in, and also weighs in that, of course, for your school and for Catholic and independent schools around the country, parents also make a contribution to the cost of your education. But I think we've got it right. Now we've just got to persuade people around the nation that it's worth getting our kids a better education than the current system. And so it's a big job of work for me and my colleagues like Yvette for the future. So we'll come over to this side. So we might take the girl there with the ribbon on, just on at the edge of, yes, you. Yeah, and then we'll come, sorry, we'll get that girl there and then we'll come through to you, the girl who stood up.
Prime Minister Gillard, what are your opinions on the controversial show At Home with Julia? Controversial show At Home with Julia?
Oh, it's a while back now, so I haven't really thought about it for a long period of time. Look, you know, I don't mind having a laugh. I think there are some lines that get crossed that you know, are beyond having a laugh, and probably raise issues about the appropriate treatment, not of me as an individual so much, but of the office of Prime Minister. So I didn't see it all. I saw some bits of it, and I think there was a suggestion there was going to be some more made, but it never happened. So it's sort of one for the history books now. And the girl who stood up, yes, that's all right. It's hard to, you know, it's not like I can go, the girl who's wearing the striped collar, you know, it's just not going to work, is it?
What do you feel is the most significant issue Australia is faced with at the moment, and how is your government responding to that issue?
Look, it's so hard to say one. You know, if I was saying, what are the, you know, things that most shape us as a country? National security, strong economy, treating each other fairly and supporting each other. They're the three big things that government has to achieve, and that we've got to achieve in a changing world. And so the region in which we live, as it changes, as it becomes the biggest consumer market in the world, the biggest middle class the world has ever seen, as China rises, as India grows, as nations like Indonesia continue to strengthen, that raises for us things we've got to think about in national security. It raises for us things we've got to think about in the strength of our economy. And then every day, in my view, we should be thinking about how can we make sure that no one gets left behind, that everyone gets included in the life of our nation, and that we're treating each other fairly.
Prime Minister, we probably have time for one more question.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. What about the girl just on the edge here? Just your, there we go.
Minister, why don't dyslexic children get funding when other kids with disabilities do?
Yeah, look, this is a big problem, and thank you for raising it with me. At the moment, there's no consistent treatment of students with disabilities or with things that get in the way of their learning, like dyslexia. So what support you get depends very much on which school you go to. It also depends on which state you're in, because different states have different systems. There's no consistent treatment. So some people get the support they need, some kids get left behind and they miss out. One of the things we're trying to achieve with this school funding work and school improvement work, the Gonski reforms, is that right around the country we've got a consistent understanding of what disabilities and learning disorders get in the way of students getting a great education, what resources we've got to put in so they can get a great education, and that isn't just, a matter of luck anymore. It's a matter of system around the country. Now, that's proving to be quite a hard thing to do, but we're very committed to working on it hard. In the meantime, we've made available extra money to flow through to schools to help kids who need that support. So thanks for your question.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for coming along to St John Fisher College today, and to your Principal, Marie Messer, thank you so much for having us here today. We know it was a bit of a surprise to have the Prime Minister just drop in and have a chat with you today, but I really do appreciate the effort that the school has put in, and also you as students, for all of your in-depth questions that you've asked today. I hope what you've seen is there's some pretty difficult issues for the Prime Minister and for the government to tackle in this country, but you as young students also understand those difficulties, and that we need to work through these important issues for the future of our country. It was only very recently, Prime Minister, since just before the change of government, that in fact from your principal, Ms Messer, to our local councillor, to our state member, myself as a federal member, our Queensland Premier, our Prime Minister, our Governor-General, right up to the Queen, we had female representation at every single level. And what I hope that shows all of you today, and what I hope you've seen through the Prime Minister and her questions, is you can achieve anything. Nothing stands in your way other than your desire to achieve. So please follow your dreams. Thank you so much for your contribution today, and thank you, Prime Minister, for joining us here today. We really do appreciate it. Can we have a big round of applause for the Prime Minister?
Thank you. I'd just like to quickly say thank you. Thank you to Ms Betts for joining us today. Thank you, Yvette, for giving us this opportunity. And thank you, Prime Minister, for coming and for allowing our girls to ask you those questions themselves, those questions they've always wanted to ask. And also, those questions were totally unvetted. So thank you for taking that. And so thank you for everything, for joining us.
Prime Minister, on behalf of the student body, we'd like to thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a hectic schedule to answer our questions, and more importantly, thank you for being a role model to the young woman before you.